Welcome back to Movie Stuff with Derrick Fury, and I just chipped away at the foundation of my childhood because I watched Good Guys Wear Black. Oy vey.
Chuck Norris is John T. Booker. Good Guys Wear Black.
Good Guys Wear Black was released in 1978. It was a MarVista production directed by Ted Post, who also directed classics, and I'm not being facetious. He directed Hang 'em High and the Dirty Harry movie, Magnum Force.
Man's got to know his limitations.
So along with this movie, he's made 3 classics.
Really?
This movie has a special place in my heart because of one scene. One shot, rather. A young Chuck Norris doing a running jump sidekick through the windshield of a moving car. That shot was also on the poster. This poster to me goes down in the annals of history as one of the coolest posters ever. I actually looked on the IMDb page for Good Guys Wear Black, and they have a different poster. That's not my poster. My poster is a headshot of Chuck Norris with aviator glasses, seeing himself do a jump sidekick through a windshield of a moving car. That's my poster. Anyway, although I wouldn't say it's a bad movie per se, it would be unwatchable for today's audiences.
This is boring. Delete.
We start with probably the worst graphics created by a computer that I've ever seen in a feature film.
Amazing what we can do with computers these days.
Anywho, after the intro graphics, we have seems like a 10-15 minute scene of exposition. So today in an action film, you would start with a big action sequence, get the people hooked, then go on to have a series of scenes where you establish the characters and their motivations, really flesh them out, who they are as people, individuals. This film just starts with the bad guys talking about doing bad things and basically giving you the plot. Throughout the history of storytelling, you would save the big reveal of who the bad guy is to the end. No, here he is. And he's going to tell you all his motivations and why. And oh my God. Oh. So James Franciscus plays the character Conrad Morgan. I've never heard of a more evil, waspy name than that.
Message!
This guy is obviously your villain. So he's a young politician making a deal to bring the Vietnam War to an end. Basically, the 1970s version of the Inglourious Bastards. It's called the Black Tigers, and it's led by Chuck Norris. So the Vietnamese government wants them dead, says, hey, we'll bring the war to an end, and we'll release a bunch of captives. Not all the POWs, but we'll release some captives if you set up the Black Tigers. We want them dead. The evil, waspy James Franciscus says, no problem. So they set them up in a action sequence that takes place 20 minutes in the movie and looks like it was shot on the beach at Galveston. So I have to give the cinematographer props here because he just said, just keep it dark. Just everything black. We're on a beach. Dark, dark. It goes wrong. A bunch of them die. Cut to black. Fade in. 5 years later, Chuck Norris is now racing a car. A lot of people don't know, before Chuck Norris became a world famous action star, he was a very successful professional kickboxer. And it seems as though most of his movies just took his hobbies and then just said, hey, we'll throw it in the movie. So you'll get a Chuck Norris movie where he owns a karate school. Then you'll get a Chuck Norris movie where he's a race car driver. I'm surprised he wasn't cast in Six Pack, that old Kenny Rogers movie. I wonder if he passed on that. So he's riding, I don't know. He's driving this car, and the scene takes way too long, and it feels like filler because we have a shot where the camera's in the car, but he's driving, and it just takes forever. I have to think they had a first cut of the movie that came in at about 65 minutes. And they're like, we got to get this to 85, 95 minutes, guys. So we get about 3-4 minutes of Chuck Norris driving a race car. We then cut to him teaching his political science class. It seems now that Booker, Chuck Norris's character, and by the way, to have a cool action movie, you have to have a name like Booker. So anyway, here, he doesn't believe that America should have been involved in Vietnam. In his class, which I didn't understand this part, because Booker walks around giving out homework assignments, and he gives one to this beautiful young lady played by Ann Archer named Margaret. After the class leaves, they start this cat and mouse where she's trying to seduce him to get information because she's a reporter, and he's trying to seduce her because he finds her attractive, but he doesn't want to give her too much information. Okay, kind of a traditional setup. This back and forth cat and mouse game of seduction they start playing. It gets played kind of clumsily later when they're at his condo and all he has to feed her is one egg. It's a whole scene. It's a whole thing about, I don't know. They just needed them to do something. They do a whole song and dance over, what are we going to make with this egg? Oh, yeah. You've got sauerkraut. We'll mix them together. It's weird. But this is the game they play. They finally yield to temptation, where they have the most 70s love scene ever, where they're laying on a white shag carpet covered by what looks like a white bear skin. I don't know. It's just, there's a fireplace and they're on shag carpeting and soft lighting, fade to black. You got a love scene, whatever. Booker finds out the reason Margaret is interested in him and juicing him for information is basically there's a plot to assassinate every living member of the Black Tigers. Booker goes out to warn the last remaining members of the Black Tigers. He's not very successful. Most of them die right in front of him, including Margaret. Now Booker's really pissed. To the corner of his eyes, he sees the assassin. And this is where the moment, one of the defining moments of my childhood happens. This scene was so important to my childhood, just the memory of this scene. So Chuck sees him. They get into a poorly choreographed and executed martial arts fight. It reminds me of like karate exhibitions with 9-year-olds. The assassin gets in his car, tries to run Chuck down. Chuck jumps out of the way. The guy circles around, comes back for Chuck, giving Chuck just enough room to run and pull off this jump sidekick. One of the defining moments of my childhood. I realize now how memory plays with a person. In my memory, this was the coolest shot I'd ever seen. Aaron Norris, Chuck's brother and stunt double for many years, who then went on to direct movies like Sidekicks and had a heavy hand in the Walker Texas Ranger series, was his stunt double at that time. And Aaron Norris does this stunt, and I don't understand how your own brother cannot look like you at all, even in a wig. I think I would look more like Chuck if I just put on a blonde wig, like for Halloween or something. Oh my God, it's I don't know. So anyway, Chuck runs, jumps. They cut to Aaron in the air with a bad wig. He goes through the windshield, killing the assassin. Cut back to Chuck, rather sloppily. He gets off the car, realizes that he's killed the assassin. And this right here is a trope of movies from that era. Murder and death by the hands of a good guy wasn't treated flippantly. If one person killed the other, much like when Bruce killed Chuck in Return of the Dragon, there's a moment where they would look and realize the serious nature of what they just did. And Chuck does this. I appreciated it anyway. Along with the aid of his CIA contact Murray, they go after more information, leading them right back to James Franciscus's character of Conrad Hilton? Oh, what's his name? Conrad Morgan. Sounds a lot like Conrad Hilton, doesn't it?
Message!
It was also good to see Pat E. Johnson in a little fight scene. Pat E. Johnson is probably most famous for being the referee in the film The Karate Kid. So it was good to see him. So a little shout out to Pat E. Johnson. Anywho, Conrad then goes on to explain that in order for him to accept the position of Secretary of State, he had to make good on his original promise to have every living member of the Black Tigers wiped out. I'm not quite sure how the Vietnamese government has influence over an appointment like this. Hey, it's the Norris universe, so who am I to judge, right? Chuck then goes on to stage an elaborate ruse where he then takes out Conrad Morgan, and him and Murray escape to live happily ever after. I will say this. More than likely what happened is MarVista wanted to work with Chuck Norris. They got to know him a little bit, knew his interest was driving cars and dating beautiful women, and said, We'll make a script around that where you're also a leader of a covert commando group. Now, one of the other things that jumps out to me is the POW theme. Chuck Norris is famous for the Missing in Action franchise. Chuck actually lost his oldest brother in the Vietnam War, and I believe that's another reason why the POW theme follows his career. In closing, is Good Guys Wear Black a bad movie? For today's standards, yes. But for its time, no. It's a product of the time it was made, when filmmakers did more story-driven action films, much like the Dirty Harry franchise. So if you're a film fan, if you're an action film fan, check this one out. I recommend it. Why? Because it stars Chuck Norris. And after you watch Good Guys Wear Black, don't forget to watch my movie, Lion Killer, that's available to watch right now for free on Amazon Prime and Tubi. That's right, Derrick Fury made a movie available right now on Amazon Prime and Tubi. And after you do that, please don't forget to head over to Amazon, IMDb, and Rotten Tomatoes and drop a review. And also like, subscribe, and smash that bell to get notifications from when my next video drops. Once again, this is Derrick Fury. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.